Well, what a month September has been. We've had 6 fantastic webinars with employers from a variety of different sectors. We've also got thousands of opportunities for you, our STEM students, to apply for on Gradcracker. So go and have a look at them all and all the employers and apply to them today. So how do we top September? Well, we top September by October and holding a webinar with the Aston Martin Formula One team. So welcome, Aston Martin. It's great to have you here today. We are joined by some very smart students and Natasha in their tops, which look absolutely lovely. So Natasha is the recruitment and talent manager, and students Scarlett, Will, Michael and Roisin, who have all completed their placements at Aston Martin Formula One and now are back at university. So thank you for... Scarlett skipped a lecture, but we'll just bypass that because she'd rather be here. I'm going to put that out there. So thanks for taking the time away from your studies and joining us today. So Natasha, I'm going to start with you, if I may. Can you tell the audience about Aston Martin Formula One? Everybody will have heard of the name, but what makes you different as a company? What is your role? And what plans have you got in store in the future?
So, hi everybody. So you will probably have known Aston Martin in our previous forms. We've been Jordan, Racing Point, Midlands, Striker, other things. And then Lawrence Stroll, the wonderful Lawrence Stroll, has invested heavily in Aston Martin. It's amazing. We've got a huge new campus being built here at Silverstone. I'm looking out almost at the track now as we speak. We're increasing headcounts. We've got so much to look forward to. We really feel like we're on a journey at Aston Martin. Yeah. So for us now, it's kind of all about the people. Yeah.
And whose office are you in today, Natasha?
I'm in Mike Crack's office today.
Ooh, but she isn't going to go through the drawers.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I bet it is. Lovely background, lovely setting. So I know we've spoken many times, Natasha, and diversity and inclusion is very high on your agenda at Aston Martin. And I know it's something that you're very passionate about as well as a person. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do in this area and why you as a person is so passionate about it?
Yeah, DE&I is really important to Aston Martin, and it's something that I feel really passionate about. You're right. Part of my role in recruitment is not just getting people into work for Aston Martin, but it's kind of going back to schools, universities, colleges, and speaking to our young people and educating them about how they can have a career in Formula One. I think a lot of people think of Formula One as being very elitist. I'll never get a job in Formula One. I and many others are testament to the fact that you can. And we want to start encouraging our young people of all different backgrounds, different genders, that they can have a career in motorsport. So, it is something that is very pressing for us right now.
Yeah, and Aston Martin, you're open to all STEM students, aren't you? So you don't need to be a member of, the Formula One societies and things like that. You are open to everybody, and hopefully we'll get this across as part of this webinar. Yeah,
you don't need to have extensive Formula One backgrounds. Yeah. I would say having an interest in it is great because it's lovely to do a job that you're so passionate about. And we all do chat about Formula One, but I see CVs from all different backgrounds. Some are part of Formula student, some aren't. Some have built a go-kart with their granddad. Yeah. Some have volunteered over at tracks. And I would say that reading them, all of that is as important. I would just say that it's really, really, really valuable to make sure that you're focusing on the job that you are going for. So yeah. I get lots of requests asking to get into Formula One, and I think it's better to say I want to go into this area or this area rather than just saying I want a job in Formula One. So really try and focus your mind from this age group into what you want to do.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're going to move on and meet the interns now, Natasha. We're going to come back to you and talk about all of the opportunities, fantastic opportunities that you've got open on the Gradcracker Hub in just a second. So, students, let's meet you all, can't wait. So Scarlett, we're going to start with you. Could you just tell us about where you went to university, where you are going to university and what you are currently studying?
Hi everyone, I'm Scarlett and I'm in my 3rd year studying aeronautics and astronautics engineering at the University of Southampton.
And what was your role when you did your placement at Aston Martin?
I was a placement student in the aerodynamics department.
Aerodynamics, perfect. Thank you very much, Scarlett. Will, on to you. So similar question. So where are you currently at university and what do you study?
So I'm at Loughborough University doing automotive engineering. I did my first 3 years, then I did my placement year, and now I'm doing my master's in my 5th year, essentially.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. Roisin?
Yep, so I'm in my 5th and final year of doing my degree in aeromechanical engineering at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow in Scotland. Yeah, I did my placement last year.
Lovely. And what team were you in when you did your placement?
Sorry, what year was?
What team?
Oh, so, engine systems, sorry.
Engine systems, no, that's fine. And Michael, last but not least.
So my answer is a copy paste of Will's. I'm at Loughborough University. I did 3 years at uni, then did my internship, and now I'm going to my final year. So my 5th final year for my master's at Loughborough. While I was at Aston Martin, I was in research and development.
Lovely. So do you two know each other from uni then?
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet is that? Little family. Perfect, thank you. And we're going to have a quick top fact about Aston Martin, just to get us into the webinar. So Scarlett, I'm going to look back to you. So top fact, please.
Bit of a niche fact, but
good, we like that.
The first time that the Aston Martin name was seen in Formula One was in 1959. And in that season, their best finishing position is the same as our best finishing position so far this season, being P6.
Wow, that's a good fact. Thank you very much, Scarlett. Roisin?
Yeah, so I think mine was more about when I was on placement. I think one of the sort of events that the team had for employees throughout the year was everybody got to plant a tree for like each employee around the new factory. That was a really good experience. So I thought that was really nice. Like everyone has their own tree around the new factory, that kind of thing.
Oh wow. Do you know what tree you planted? I'm an avid gardener.
Oh, I have absolutely no idea. It was very young.
Yeah. Oh good. That just gives you a bit of a future plan, doesn't it? Like 10 years time you can go back and say, I planted that tree.
See the tree, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Will?
My fact was ruined a bit by Natasha earlier, but
oh, Natasha.
Sorry.
In sort of 30 years since the team was founded as Jordan, Aston Martin is now the 6th different name the team has run under.
Wow, the 6. Okay, that's a good fact. Thank you very much, Will. Michael?
Yeah, mine's a bit more similar to Roisin's. So fun little fact is that Aston Martin every year have a family day in the summer. And that's something that you can really look forward to when you join Aston Martin on placement. You can come, bring your family along, and it's quite a nice event that everyone can enjoy, really.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Natasha, did you have one that you wanted to finish with?
No, I don't think so. Great canteen.
Yeah. Get the food in there, Natasha. I knew you were going to say that.
Really good. They home make all the cakes.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Everything's homemade. It's unbelievable, but not great if you're on a diet.
No, I'm not going to get Natasha talking about the canteen because this will last for the full hour. So thank you guys for your facts. Natasha, I'm actually going to come back to you. So I bet, in your role with meeting students that you come across a lot of myths and misconceptions when you're speaking to the students. So a bit of a myth busting round. Is there anything that's come up over the years that you've been there that you kind of want to cover off? Are there any misconceptions? I know you've just already said that you don't need to be a Formula One guru.
Yeah, but I would probably say that is the most misconception, that that we don't take anybody from outside of the UK, and of course we do. We have people from all over the globe here, and we help with sponsorships and with visas and all of those things. We are one of our mottos is all in, all celebrated, all welcome. And to that turn, the diversity and inclusivity piece is about having different points of view from different people. It's going to be very boring if everybody is the same and we have the same opinions all the time. So I think that's a massive myth. I get asked that a lot. And the other thing is about the F1 experience. You don't need to have F1 experience, and you don't need to be a guru on F1. We have lots of people actually that aren't bothered about F1. They just love engineering, or they love aerodynamics, or I think just see it as applying for the job that is of interest to you and that you have the experience in.
Yeah, perfect. And you mentioned you recruit students from all over the world, all over the globe. Would you all be based at the same site in Silverstone though?
Yeah, we're all based out of Silverstone.
Perfect.
We work here, most of us work here 5 days a week. Yeah. We have our new wind tunnel being built as we speak. I'm surprised you can't hear the diggers. So our campus is going to be a huge campus where we're all based all in the same place, which will be amazing because we've got sort of factories dotted around the place. Everyone will be in the same factory. And then the building that we're sat in now is going to be a restaurant and a gym and a heritage site and sort of event space, and then we'll have the wind tunnel, and it's all linked together by glass walkways, so it's going to be very snazzy. And we've got a running track and woodland walks, and we have yoga once a week here, and we're looking at getting a gym instructor. So we really are starting to think about every individual that works here and making it a great place to work.
Brilliant. So, I mean, it sounds like an amazing place to work.
It is.
So let's loop back. A perfect link would be to your opportunities then. So I know we've got them all live on Gradcracker.
Yes.
So students who are watching, watch the webinar, then go and get your applications in. Just give the students, Tasha, if you can, a bit of a flavour about what is on offer this year.
So we've got 20 plus vacancies for undergraduate placements. They went live on the 28th, which means they'll be live for 30 days. You have 30 days to apply. Do make sure that you take your time to make sure that things are spelled correctly, and that if you're going to add in a cover letter, make sure that somebody reads it, all those usual things that I'm sure that you've all heard before. Once the opportunities that are being posted are across aerodynamics, performance software, trackside support, vehicle performance, research and development, aero R&D design, mechanical design, engine systems, electronics, garage equipment design. So it's across quite a number of areas. You will be asked to select the area that you want to go for, and you can only pick up to 3. So really, again, I'll go back to what I said before, make sure that you're picking areas that you are interested in and that you have experience in, because it will give you a much better chance. Once we've received all of the applications in at the 30-day point, we will either send out a test. It will depend on what role you go for. You will either be sent an online test, which you will have to do and send back, or you'll just be called in to do a traditional interview or an assessment centre. They should all happen around the test will be the 1st to the 7th of November, and assessment and interviews probably around the 7th to 14th. So don't expect anything to happen kind of before those dates. And then you should be told very, very soon after you've had your interviews. Perfect. And then they'll be starting next year, obviously.
I was just going to say that. So when do the placements actually start, Natasha? Is that September or?
No, they'll start in July, because it's a 13-month placement this time around, because we'd like you to have a month handover with the previous student, which I think is a brilliant idea. And it's really good. We'll get you all set up on a Teams link with all the other students, so that you talk in before you even start, before you even walk through the door at Aston Martin, and you'll have some friendships hopefully before that point. So
I love that idea, that overlap between the existing student and the new student. You can definitely settle in, ask any questions or whatever before you start. So thank you, Natasha. I know you mentioned briefly about the recruitment process. We'll come back to you at the end, as we always do, for hints and tips. But for now, Jessica, I'm going to hand over to you and to speak to the students.
Thanks, Carla. So obviously we all know that you've now finished your placement. So if you could tell us a bit more about your role during the placement, and really from the start. So why did you choose to take a year out, and why Aston Martin? So Scarlett, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I chose to take a year out because it's something that as soon as I knew that I was available, I wanted to do it. So this years I've been really wanting to do a placement, and I knew I wanted it to be an F1 because that's my career goal and has been for probably about 10 years. So I knew that I definitely wanted to work in an F1 team. And I'd always admired Aston Martin because I really liked the way that previously, compared to other teams, they'd had a much smaller budget, yet their kind of performance per pound was always incredible. And I really liked that. And it shows kind of how well the team works together and maximizes absolutely everything that they've got. And with a growing budget and growing resources, I mean, it just shows that it's going to exponentially get better. so that really attracted me to the team. And my role, so I was in the aerodynamics department, so I was directly contributing to the design of different aero parts of the car, and so I'd be using CAD to scheme them and then running them in CFD. And also I was shadowing wind tunnel shifts, so actually working in the wind tunnel, monitoring all the changes of the parts on the wind tunnel model and analysing the data as it comes in and making decisions on which parts are going to continue to be developed and which parts are going to be sidelined for a bit.
Brilliant. So Natasha just mentioned about a new wind tunnel being built. So did you get to see any of that? Is that something that you got to kind of get involved in as well in the new one, or not yet?
Not yet. Hopefully I'll be using the new one at some point soon, but it was, I think when we left it literally kind of just broken ground on that wind tunnel. So wow. I was still using our other one that we use, but yeah.
So fingers crossed, Scarlett, you'll be back. Natasha, she's coming back.
Don't you worry, she's on my radar.
Oh, brilliant. Good stuff. And that's a really good point there as well. It's Natasha, just come back to you slightly there, that if students do perform well on placement, by the sounds of it, you would invite them back.
100%. I think this is a huge opportunity, and these guys on here have been so amazing, not just in their jobs, but they come out to the universities with me, they speak to other students. Whenever we have any guests coming in and they need to have a presentation, these guys are the first people that step up. And I think if that's something that interests you, you have every opportunity to do more than just your job, to actually encourage other people like you to get in. So yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to them while they're here all together.
Thanks, Natasha, for saying that for everyone. That's lovely. Roisin, I'm going to come to you next. Similar question. So tell us why Aston Martin, and what was it like?
So yeah, I think initially I was only looking for a summer placement rather than a year one, but on reflection, actually, I think a year-long placement anywhere, but obviously specifically in F1, you just learn so much more. It's such a better time frame to kind of develop your skills, get to know the company and that kind of thing. Honestly, I'm similar to Scarlett, the way that I was kind of attracted to Aston Martin specifically. The team seemed really efficient. I really wanted to work in that kind of environment. And even just during the interview process and that kind of thing, just everybody seemed very friendly, kind of like a family sort of vibe. And I just thought it'd be a really great opportunity for the year out. And yeah, I was involved with engine systems department. So my work was just mainly CAD design day to day. Beginning with just sort of tooling design for senior engineers, just getting to know the software, and then moving on to developing other parts of the car. I think sort of the bigger areas that I worked in were mostly the fuel system. I really enjoyed that. That was something I'd never done before in like my Formula student team. So it was like a new area for me. But I also got to get involved with stuff like mission control, which you can volunteer for in the weekends, which was just a mind-blowing experience that I never thought I'd get access to as a placement student. And yeah, there was just a bunch of different things to do day to day, from CAD to writing some VBA for like organizational stuff. So it was just a massive mixed bag. Really great year.
And we'll talk about your projects in a bit more detail, but responsibility, already sounds as though you were given a lot of responsibility. You were handed actual work to be working on, and that must have been amazing, was it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you actually see it on the car, it's a bit like, wow, that's actually on track. And I designed that, and it's gone through a stress engineer, and then it's been built and put on the car. It's just incredible. It's crazy. But yeah, and there was loads of opportunities throughout the year. In engine, for example, like myself and Will got the chance to do a bit of like hands-on manufacture experience. So we actually got to like make a part that we had designed or done the drawing for. So it was like the full life cycle of the part, and then seeing it go in the car was just that was crazy.
That's interesting, because that's, I suppose, something I guess as an outsider, I didn't think you'd get involved in. I thought you kind of have that's your kind of remit. You do, I think you'd pass it on. But is that quite common then, that people could get the chance to be involved in the full like life cycle of an idea?
I think it definitely depends on the department. For us, it was a really, really good learning experience, because it kind of helped us as design engineers to understand what the people manufacturing the part want to see on like your drawings, how you design stuff. It was really valuable. It was only a brief thing, like it was just a couple of days of experience, but it's still, I think even if you don't have that, it's such an open team that there's always the chance to speak to other people in other departments, or like you're getting exposed to loads of different areas of the car, not just the thing you're working on. So there's loads of opportunities for it.
Brilliant. And Roisin, if you don't mind saying, just because I've tried to work out, but I think geographically you are the furthest away from Silverstone. How was how was that moving for you? How did you find that experience? Because again, there'll be a lot of students maybe from Strathclyde or Aberdeen, wherever, or anywhere in the UK, or even outside of the UK, thinking, the moving for 13 months. How was that for you in relocating to Silverstone?
It was a little bit daunting, just obviously moving down south to a new country and that kind of thing. I'd moved out before for university, but I was still a little bit nervous. But I mean, the area is obviously really amazing as well. Like being that close to the track was a big benefit for me. And I've got a lot more stuck in with just, the work is so amazing that you're working long hours, but you're really enjoying it, and it's easy to just kind of get lost in your work throughout the week. But there was also a lot of like social opportunities from my department, so I was never worried about like, oh, what am I going to do on the weekends, or what am I going to do after work, that kind of thing. So it was definitely worth it.
Brilliant, that's great. And Natasha, is there anything else you want to add there in terms of support that Aston Martin can give for students relocating?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, actually, most of our students that come here, and so many of our employees, come from way out of the area. People move house to I mean, we've only got 10 Formula One teams, so if Formula One is your thing, you're going to have to potentially move house. We are the only race team at the track at Silverstone. There's a few around this area, but I would say the support is in the group that you are in. So if there's 25 students, you'll have that peer group, but the management here are so supportive. I'm not joking when I say that when you walk around the building, everyone says hello, everybody learns your name, the people in the canteen, the receptionist, the cleaners, everybody, Mike, Martin, everybody will say hello. And I think that's what I wasn't expecting coming to Formula One, because Formula One is quite new to me. Recruitment's, old hat for me, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, is it going to be, really elitist, I guess? And it isn't. It's really friendly. And yes, there's lots of support. I work alongside the HR team, and we're always there for people to come in and say, I need this, or I need that, or can you help me with this? So the support is 100% there.
Amazing. Perfect. Thanks, Natasha. Will, I'm going to come to you next, if that's okay. Same question. Tell us a bit about why and what life was like at Aston Martin for you.
So the why was very much Loughborough University very strongly promote everyone to do a placement year. So a lot of people do, and I can completely see why now. A year's experience, you learn so much, you develop so many different skills. You get used to working in a team, you get a taste of sort of what your career is going to be like afterwards. I mean, you learn what you do and don't like, so it will help you in the future. So is that the job for you, or is F1 not for you, or are there other jobs within F1 you'd rather apply for? So it's really helpful, and it will obviously benefit your CV and employability and that sort of thing. And then so my role was, I was in the same team as Roisin, so engine systems, which, because Aston Martin buy the engine off Mercedes, it was the purpose of that department is integrating their engine into our car. So we were helping, you're mostly helping the seniors do their job. So to start with, it was tooling parts and that sort of thing, and then as you get more confident, then you start designing your own parts and helping in that way. So it was really good.
Am I allowed to ask a question here? Tell me if I'm not too much, but is it, so the engine then, I'm guessing you're allowed to adapt that and change that with your own ideas, or do you have to keep the engine pretty much as you buy it?
So you keep the engine as you buy it, but so Roisin said she works mostly on the fueling system, so we're responsible for the systems around it. So fueling it, I worked more with the cooling of it.
Right.
So designing radiators and all the sort of pipes and fluid flows around the engine, and obviously just sort of general fitting it in, packaging it, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
But the engine you leave.
Engine you leave.
Mercedes
Can't tell you any more than that, Jessica.
That's fine, don't worry. And so then in terms of everything else around it, then that must be quite exciting to see how all that then works together from, again, similar experience from design right through to seeing it on the car. Did you get that similar experience, like Roisin said, in terms of physically being able to put something together as well?
Yeah. So I did that with her. So we worked sort of the first 11 months just designing, and then towards the end in the summer, the work sort of eases off a little bit mid-season. So our manager suggested we go and try that out, making sort of carbon parts or doing a bit of welding and that sort of thing. So yeah, as she said, it was just to I guess try out what the people are doing.
Absolutely. Again, you mentioned as well about the experience. So I think of all the experience you've gained over the last 13 months and how fantastic that was going to look on your CV in the future. So absolutely, brilliant. Michael, coming to you next, similar question. Why, obviously, you've mentioned you're obviously at Loughborough as well. So I can see why you would want to do a year in industry. And obviously, it's great that Loughborough encouraged you to do that. But for personally, why was it that you want to do a year out? And, what was it like at Aston Martin?
So I suppose I kind of knew that I definitely wanted to work in Formula One, and as much as you learn on placement as well, it's also your opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door a little bit and show the team who you are as a person, what you can do and what you can offer the team. Effectively like a year-long interview really to kind of show, like, can I come back and have a proper job? But so I kind of really saw that as my way in into full-time work in Formula One basically. And then Aston Martin's a great place to work for. I was in the R&D department, so research and development.
Yeah.
So hugely varied role. No 2 days are really the same in terms of the fact that it could be coding or designing parts, testing parts. Probably the best part of the job is being paid to break expensive stuff. That was probably the best part of R&D. But it's also pretty awesome when you see the cars out on track and you know that you've basically held almost every part on that car, especially doing things like mass teardowns. You kind of literally, the whole purpose of a mass teardown is to weigh every single part of the car. So there's literally not a single part on the car that I haven't seen or touched. So that's pretty cool. But yeah.
Michael, do you say mass teardowns?
Yes. Yeah.
You physically and the draw everything, just put it all apart and say, right, what?
Yeah. It's to try and help find like wear masses and DOGs and things like that. So you literally get the car, come back from the race as is, as much as possible. So like no one touched it, the mechanics don't strip it down. We bring it into R&D and we literally just take each part of the car off one by one, weigh every single piece. But you got to do it as quickly as you can because the car's then got to go to the other side of the world in 2 days. So you got to do it quickly. But
this is my lack of knowledge on Formula One. So sorry for anyone watching thinking, but so yeah, that car is, you can only use that one car. Is it two cars you've got throughout the full season?
So we've got loads of chassis, and then it's kind of it's weird because you see it as two cars, but like it's just a mashup of parts.
Amazing. So in terms of, you said obviously R&D, again, if I'm allowed to ask this question, how in the future do you look from the research and development side? By the sounds of it, you're obviously looking at the instant stuff and the car as is now, but do you get to, really kind of delve in the idea of what the car and what the car could look like in, say, 10 years time, 5 years time?
So the point of R&D is not just to look at what we're doing now, but also to kind of solve any problems that might be coming up, to try and think of different solutions for things, try things small scale to see if they'll work, but then also to kind of test new ideas. So if we've got a new kind of way of doing things that we might want to implement in a car in the year after or the year after that, then we'll start to prove out those principles and see if it would work in small scale. And if it does, and if it works in the lab, then there's no reason why not to carry on the design process, really.
Brilliant. And did you have any experiences like that where you thought, oh, that actually could be a potential? Obviously, you don't need to know the detail of it,
sure.
but it must be quite cool to think, God, I could be involved in something. I've experienced something that could be something that's going to change the future.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was cool to kind of like work on parts and look at stuff that's probably going to be on the 23 car and things like that. Mostly things that aren't really seen as such, like the structures of things and things like that. It's definitely really cool to kind of be right at the bleeding edge of all this stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine. I bet it's incredible.
Jess, I was just going to say, sorry, Mike, I was just going to say, so there's the car and then obviously there's the person in the car. So when it comes to, like, I can't think of a better word than uniform. Do you know what the drivers wear and the helmets and everything else? Do you in the R&D department get involved in things like that then to analyse like the weight and everything else? Because obviously it'll all have an impact, won't it?
Yeah, less so with things like the helmets and the overalls and things like that. The closest kind of we get to that is when you're doing the mass teardown, you got to have someone who weighs about the same as the driver.
Yeah.
And, I kind of weighed about the same as the driver with all the kit.
Were you the dummy, Michael? Just sit you in it.
Exactly, yeah. So that was cool to kind of, just like stand there with the parts. But I represent Lance and his helmet and all the other stuff. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I'd take that as a good thing.
But apart from the role as well, there's all sorts of other things you can get involved with as well. Like as Natasha said, there's so many outreach things that are really good fun to kind of go out and talk to people and like share your passion for Formula One and share your passion for your job. And then also things like as part of the Aston Martin football team, and we've got all sorts of stuff like that. And it's cool to like. There's things like the Pirelli Cup, so all the Formula One teams have their own football team and play against each other in a tournament. And then we've also had things like one of our suppliers, so one of the companies who make stuff for us, they played against Aston Martin football team on a local pitch in Brackley. So that was quite cool, kind of like putting on your football boots and putting on the top, and like, I'm playing football for Aston Martin. So there's so many things to get involved in. It's a really good place to work.
Oh, good. Next, I want to talk about, and I know this is a little bit early because I know some of you have literally only just got back, and Scarlett, you're missing your first lecture, so I apologise to your lecturer who's probably thinking, where is she? But already, preparing to come back, thinking, right, I'm going into my final year now. I know you might not be able to see just yet the changes, but, do you feel like this experience has changed what you're going to do this year and how it's going to look and how you're going to perform and where career's going to end up? And Scarlett, do you feel like this experience so far has benefited you in any way?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there's a number of ways in which it has. One of the biggest kind of transferable skills that I got out of the job is prioritization, because you have very limited time to do things and you have to do them very, very well. So you very, very quickly learn what can get cut out or what can wait and what has to be done right now and what needs more time than other things. So I definitely know that that's going to be really helpful now, because I'm going to have so much to do in the coming year that I've got to learn how to prioritize things. So that's definitely one big thing. Also, from an aerodynamics point of view, coming into the placement, I had very, very little aerodynamics knowledge. So now that I'll be learning more of the actual theory and a lot of the kind of physics and mathematics behind it, I'm very much a person who likes to be able to visualize what's happening in order to understand it. So now I've had the very much practical application of all of the aerodynamic theory. I think that's going to really help my learning from a theoretical point of view, because I already know how it works in the real world.
Definitely.
So I'm really looking forward to kind of getting more into the numbers behind the aerodynamics, because I think I'll definitely stand a much better chance of understanding it now. And then I think the last thing that's really helped me, will help me this year, is I'm doing a project as part of my degree with Aston Martin. I'm so excited to really get properly going on that. And the team have been incredible in offering me loads of help and support, and everyone who's offered has just been telling me, email me anytime you want, I'll help you with whatever I can. And I'm so much looking forward to that, because I think it's just the most fantastic opportunity to combine my studies and work in one.
Oh, I'm so glad that one, that Aston Martin are off, and two, you said that because how exciting is that? And two, and you know, knowing really now you can go into your final year confident. I mean, Natasha, you know, I swear that hopefully you will be coming back after your final year, that, you know, you can have that mindset now, knowing that you can just 100% focus on, you know, expanding your knowledge now, you know, expanding the range of, you know, working with people that are still, you know, at Aston Martin, and this next year is going to be absolutely phenomenal for you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue to prove myself, that I'm dedicated to the team and to the work, and I'm still passionate about it, and I'm improving all the time and learning more and developing myself. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to prove that.
Amazing. That could be, that's just, if anyone's thinking about applying now, you know, just think this then could be you this time next year. Roisin, similar question for you, my love. How do you feel like it's benefited you already, the experience so far?
So same as Scarlett, I think I've picked up a massive range of skills, and just kind of developed the ones that I had as well before from stuff like uni and Formula Student. It just really helped kind of raise my confidence, like just in terms of soft skills, like things like project planning and like managing timelines, prioritization as well, like that kind of thing. It's already helping me with, like, I've already started on my like master's project, a little bit far astray from the car. It's more of a robotics one, but it's you know, the engineering principles are often the same, and like still planning a project out. So it's already helping with that. And then obviously just from the technical point of view, my CAD has definitely improved about tenfold because it was my kind of main thing I was doing every day. So yeah, just, and it has definitely, it sort of cemented for me that I wanted to keep working in Formula One, and I wanted to go back with Aston Martin. So and I have accepted a grad offer, so I'm really excited.
Have you as well?
Oh, well done.
Well done. Congratulations. Again, perfect now, knowing you can go into your final year. That drive and that focus now, which is great. And, you know, I've said this before, but, you know, lots of people have said to me that, you know, you probably will get a better grade as well at the end of all this, because, you know, getting this experience now is, you know, really concreted the fact that you want to stay in Formula One. You can now go in your final year and concentrate, that you've got that focus and that drive now, and there's no going to be kind of other distractions of having to job hunt on top of it all as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think as soon as you know, like, how much you enjoyed the year, and for me that was kind of apparent even within the first few months. I was really enjoying the work I was doing, and I knew that it was my first sort of choice if I had an offer, so I was really excited for that. Definitely.
Amazing. Fantastic, and well done. Will, you next, if that's okay. What's kind of your experiences in terms of the benefit you feel already?
So my first lecture is tomorrow, so
you're going to be there.
I'll see once I do that whether I'm more focused or whatever. But I feel already more, I feel ready to work hard this year, and I feel like I want to do well, like really well, which I think before it's so easy to just kind of go along with it. And whereas this year I'm so far, I think anyway, I'm going to work harder and be more organised and that sort of thing. And also I've arranged a final year project with the team as well as Scarlett. So
brilliant.
That's it's nice to have, and I think I'll find that more interesting, and again, I want to work harder for it because of the fact I'm doing it for them or with them. And
absolutely. You don't want to let them down either.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well done, Will. That's great. Come on then, Michael. Full house.
So I think it's apparent immediately that kind of massively develop as an engineer over the year. And you look at how it started compared to how it's just, you come on immensely as an engineer in almost every respect, especially with a role as broad as R&D. There's so much that kind of you can get stuck in with. Similarly, without saying the same as everyone else, it's very much just a case of I'm kind of really looking forward to this year. Having been in education, uni for like 3 years of uni and everything like that, you kind of start to get into the swing of it, and then you go off on placement, earn a bit of money as well, which is nice, and then come back just refreshed and ready to kind of have one last year of university really, and then go off and hopefully go back into Formula One.
Yeah, fingers crossed, I'm sure you will. So next I want to talk a bit about the projects, if that's okay. So Scarlett, I'm going to come back to you. So if you could, you've all kind of spoke about the projects you worked on anyway, but if you could tell us a bit more detail about maybe the, kind of your favourite project that you had over the last 13 months and what that was, and a bit of detail about it.
Yeah, so I did manage to do a bit of pretty much nearly every part of the car. I at least dabbled in. But my main project throughout the whole thing was I was really heavily involved with the beam wing on the car. So you got the big rear wing of the car, which most people know because it's like one of the most visual parts of it. And then kind of underneath that almost, there's a little wing that's kind of quite a bit smaller. And I was designing that, and that was most of my year I was doing that, because there's so much to do in aero that everyone has to do quite a lot of work on quite a lot of bits of the car. So it was quite nice that even as a placement student, I was doing most of the dev on that bit of the car. So I had obviously support from aerodynamicists and senior aerodynamicists and upwards, but the kind of day-to-day working on it, it was literally me doing it, which it was really weird to get your head around. Like, this is a bit of the car and you are in charge of it, basically. You're designing it. And yeah, so the beam wing that's currently on the car is my design. Wow. Which was just the most insane thing, like seeing it on track and being like, I did that. That was I drew that, I tested it, I took that to the wind tunnel. That was me. I thought about that and came up with that. So yeah, that was my main project for the year, which I was very, very reluctant to hand over to someone else. I was not happy with that. Really, I didn't enjoy that at all. But hopefully, I assume the next placement student has it. I'm not sure. Hopefully, they're looking after it. But yeah,
I'm sure they are. And the good thing as well, I guess, Scarlett, is you could probably keep in contact with them. And would that still be okay to kind of, is everything all right?
Yeah. So, well, I'm not really allowed to be told anything, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, I've stayed in contact with some of the people I worked with, so it was really good just seeing how they get
nice
on.
But,
yeah, unfortunately they can't really tell me very much.
You're so proud of yourself there.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe, mainly that I just couldn't believe that we'd be given that much responsibility that early on, because I thought it would be quite kind of shadowing and then doing some work, but someone would always be kind of checking it and overwriting it a bit. But when I kind of, I mean, everyone says beforehand, oh, you get thrown into the deep end. Yeah, and you realise, oh wow, no, they literally mean go design the car. Oh, okay, sure, we'll do that then. But yeah, it was really good.
So inspiring, because again, you do hear that, we say it a lot on the webinars, don't we, Carla? Oh yeah, you get given proper projects, but I did not expect you to come out with that. You were that involved, and basically it was one of your ideas, which is incredible. So, it's something you should definitely be proud of. So I can imagine that was, the number one experience. So well done, Scarlett. So Roisin, I'm going to come to you. What would you say your favourite project was when you were with Aston Martin?
Well, that's a difficult one. I think kind of similar to Scarlett, actually, I was also very surprised at the amount of responsibility you're given fairly early on. Once you've kind of got past the sort of tooling stage and shadowing senior engineers, they do build you up by just giving you smaller parts, brackets and fixtures and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think the biggest parts that I got to work on that I really enjoyed developing was inside the fuel cell, so the collector and all the sort of mounting for that. Yeah, being able to actually work with the stress engineer and sort of have my design for all these different parts that if something it's kind of terrifying, because it's also, if this fails, something could go quite drastically wrong, because it's inside, and I was like, low likelihood, but it's still a bit nerve-wracking. But I think that was my favorite project, just because I got to sort of redevelop it a couple of times. It was a part that we had a couple of Mark 1, Mark 2 different stages of, and I got to be involved in each sort of renewed stage, that kind of thing. But even I did really enjoy working on parts for the car, but I also really enjoyed the fact that they give you quite a lot of free rein for stuff like tooling, jigs and that kind of thing, that haven't been developed before, just your own ideas, to have something that just will make the mechanics and like sub-assembly people their lives easier as they're putting parts together, or not easier, I'm sure some of them would say in some instances. But yeah, I think working inside the fuel cell was my favorite project, but there was so many that hard to choose from.
Yeah, that's quite interesting as well, that you could have the capacity as well to get a bit creative, to think,
Yes.
oh, where else could I improve here. And I think then it's nice that you've been given the responsibility to run with an idea as well. That was really cool to feel like, if you saw a change, or you saw something that needed to change, you could potentially make the change and make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. I think engine is very good for that as well, because there's so many different parts around the car, like as you're integrating it and all its auxiliary systems, you work on such a variety of different parts, like carbon and metallic, and there's so many different like manufacture processes, which means that's going to obviously affect how you design parts. So yeah, I just got to learn a ton of things that I wouldn't normally have access to in university, mainly because of how expensive the materials are.
I can imagine. It's cool though. Will, I'm going to come to you next. Similar question, if that's okay.
So yeah, I was in the same department as Machine, but we did quite different projects. But it's quite hard to pick out the big projects, because you do so many different things, and actually a lot of them aren't that big, and they're all quite quick turnover.
Okay. Yeah.
So, because I think in the year I was there, I think I released over 500 different parts.
Oh wow.
And so a lot of that's sort of tooling, so that doesn't go on the car, but yeah, we did 2 weeks of training and then went sort of straight into designing our first part. So yeah, you're given a lot of responsibility very early on, and I think the thing that amazed me was there's sort of 700 people in the team, but the number of people that actually are designing and releasing the parts that go on the car is about 50.
Okay.
So yeah, we're 2 out of the 50 people designing parts, so you do actually have quite a lot of responsibility out of all the thousands of parts on the car. But I'd say that the biggest project I did in terms of time was doing a weld jig for the radiator.
Okay.
And that was quite fun, because I got to go over to speak and work with the welders who put it all together, and I sort of got their input of what they wanted, and I got to speak with the designer of the radiator as to how he wanted it done, and sort of communicating with different groups and then coming up with the best possible solution. That
must be good to be able to work with different people outside of
exactly. And then once it's made, you get to go and see it, and it's quite a big thing with sort of 50 parts, so they're all bolted together. So that was really cool. I can
imagine. You've all there's been a bit of a running theme as well in terms of time management, and I suppose you've said that you're feeling as though that's a skill now that you've learned more of, and you'd be able to apply that into different aspects of your life now. But I suppose there's that's, you're working against time frames is going to be really quite strict there. You've got the pressure of fixing something quite quickly, but then also, Michael, in terms of your role as well, and thinking about long term, and there's so many things that I guess time revolves around at your, in all of your roles. And it was just interesting that you kind of think you've got to be quite reactive, proactive, and quite quick to respond to things. And do you think did you feel like that was kind of a big element, going through the experience, that pressure of getting things right quite quickly, but also it's all right if you don't get it right? Would you say, Will?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, sometimes something will fail and they quickly figure out why it's failed, and there's a race in 2 weeks' time. So the plane leaves in 8 days to that race. We need to design the fit, send it out, and we need 3 of them made. And so you've got sort of a week to do all that, which isn't a long time at all. So yeah, there is that pressure of the deadlines come quick and fast.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, there's yeah, there's lots of people to help you, and if fortunately this never happened to me, but if you design something that failed and it stops the car, you're not blamed for it. It's
that's good to know.
That's happened.
Yeah.
What's the fix going to be? You don't sort of dwell on the past. There's no blaming people.
There's definitely, if I don't mind jumping, there's definitely a no blame culture in.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw that from, unfortunately, quite early on, because I
oh no,
it's a story.
Did my own test, and some stuff fell over and broke. But instead of, I kind of just went up to my boss and I thought, oh, Michael, like, come on, 2 weeks in, you're breaking something pretty expensive. Like, it's all right to break stuff when you're meant to break it. But yeah, everyone was really good about it. It's kind of immediately, it wasn't Michael's broken the race team scales. It was like, the race team scales are broken. Let's get them fixed. So it kind of helps you as well, because you go around and you don't feel like everyone knows, everyone's looking at you, everyone knows, he's broken these like 20 grand scales or whatever they are. And you kind of speak to people and like, oh yes, somehow the scales break, and I'm like, yeah, that was me. But otherwise it can get circulated like who's done it as opposed to what's happened. Definitely I agree with Will. With if something happens, there's not really a blame culture. It's more, let's work to fix it, because we don't have time to dwell on who's done what.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, that is such a good point to make, because again, you could be sat here thinking, I'd love to apply to Aston Martin. Oh my God, I can't believe all the responsibility you get. But imagine doing something wrong. And I'm like, oh, that weight needed expense, the money and everything else. And, the short time frame. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because that's a wonderful thing to say about the team as well. It is a team. You're all pulling in the same direction. You all just want, that, whether it be where you are on pole, or, if you've got the best car, or what, the best small element of the car. So that's a really good point that you've mentioned that. And I think that's a nice reflection of Aston Martin as a whole, I think, that, it is like that. And you all ultimately, there's no blame. You haven't done it intentionally, have you? So, which is nice. Michael, I know you mentioned briefly a bit about kind of extra kind of, I want to say curricular, but that's the wrong word, but kind of networking groups that you can be involved in. Sure. So you mentioned a bit about football and everything else like that. Did anyone else, because I'm kind of keeping this open now, so I'm a bit conscious of time because I want to come back to Natasha, but did anyone else get involved in anything, outside of their kind of job in terms of networking and any kind of activities that they want to talk about?
So I do quite a lot of running, so I met a few other people. You get an hour for lunch, which is a good amount of time. So I met a few other people that run, and we often go running together at lunchtime. Right. There's a golf driving range 2 minutes up the road. So that was something else we, as a department, every Friday lunchtime. Yeah. 2 minutes up to the driving range and hit balls for half an hour, and we made it competitive. We sort of had point scoring competitions and stuff every week.
That was my first time holding a golf club. That's another skill I can take away.
Added to the hobbies.
Yes, but it's fun on your lunch break. It's a fun competition. So.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I think the last one would be go-karting. So we had two go-karting events, races, organised in the year I was there. So there were probably sort of 60-70 people that went, and you're in teams of 3. So
even the team principal goes as well.
Mike Pratt turned up for the last one, and I think his team won. So so that's really good fun, and definitely something you should get involved with if you're at Aston Martin.
Oh, definitely. It's also quite good, if you've got a bit of a competitive streak in you. I guess, Natasha, you maybe want to hear a bit about that if someone's a bit competitive and,
Yeah, I think obviously we're a very competitive sport, but I think it's nice to have all these things. You see so many groups going off running, walking, cycling. I know about the karting. I'd quite like to be a part of that, actually. I do like driving very fast.
I was going to say, Natasha, but you are the most competitive there.
I am quite competitive, actually. Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm going to jot that down. But it's a real team, and I think I keep saying this word, but we are on a journey. We may not be the finished article right now, but the 5-year plan that Lawrence put in place is here, and all the departments are working together. We all get on. We all want the same thing, and that is podium places. And I absolutely, in my heart, know that we will do it without doubt. So I just think if you don't want to be part of this journey, you're mad. It's so exciting.
Yeah, but why would you not want to be part of that journey?
I don't know.
We've had, I don't know, there must be mental, but we've had so many experiences, from the interns, and you've definitely sold Aston Martin. So, Natasha, can we finish off then? Hints and tips. You briefly mentioned about the recruitment process at the beginning. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about that? And if not, what hints and tips would you give to a student wanting to apply?
Well, I would say apply. If this has been of interest to you and you want to have a career in Formula One, this is a really good thing to do. If there are apprenticeships, there are graduate opportunities, but today it's about the undergraduate placement. So if you are at university and you are able to go and do a year somewhere before you return, you have to be returning. It's important. You have to be returning to your university after the placement. Otherwise you're not able to apply. But if that is you, then I would absolutely apply. And I said at the very beginning, take your time in your application. Make sure that you let somebody read your CV who is good with grammar and good with spelling. I know it sounds really silly, but it is important. Attention to detail. You don't need to write chapter and verse in a cover letter. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. I think the application form asks you everything that we need to know. And everybody has the same opportunity as the next person. So I'd feel very sad if somebody thought, oh, I won't apply because I just won't get in. Just have a go. And I said, you'll either have a test sent to you if that manager is wanting to send a test out. Just an FYI, I know the aerodynamics students will have a test being sent out, but otherwise it'll be a traditional interview, or it'll be an assessment centre where you have a group session or you have a practical session. So hopefully you get to showcase, a few of your skills, not just one, because some people don't like interviewing, and that's understandable. But you'll get different opportunities. But
there's a bit of a variety there. And what would you say, and I know everybody just said about all the benefits and everything else that's on offer there. Is there anything, Natasha, that shines out to you about like the training and development, or anything else that students can get that you just want to cover off as part of the webinar?
Yeah, the last tip or hint, I think, is to say that you may come into an engine systems role, but you may not end in an engine systems role. At the moment, in particular, we have got so many people moving within our business. We really celebrate internal movement and promotion. And I think that is probably the most successful that it's been at this point. So there is plenty of opportunity once you get your foot in the door to do whatever you want, to move around, showcase your skills, speak to a different manager, go and work in mission control if that's what you want to do. If you want to go trackside, you can make those moves when you're in here by doing really well at what you're doing, learning that craft, and then moving on. And I think
if there's enough time, so literally at the end of my placement, I kind of mentioned to my boss I'm massively interested in vehicle dynamics and that kind of thing, and I'd enjoyed kind of working in mission control and looking at the data and that kind of stuff. So I kind of mentioned to him that I'd like to see if I could get some experience in vehicle dynamics, and next thing you know, he said, leave it with me. Kind of, it was like 2 or 3 weeks, and I was thinking, do I bring it up again? I'm not sure if you've forgotten. And then he said, just like, are you free this afternoon? We'll go and speak to head of vehicle dynamics. Like, he'd literally sorted everything out. And next thing I know, I'm spending like a week and a bit in the vehicle performance group, kind of working with them. So as Natasha said, everyone's so approachable. And if you kind of crack on, do your job well, and just kind of like be a team player. Everyone is so nice within the company, and everyone just wants like the company as a whole to do well. So if you're really interested in a certain area, there's no reason why you can't like look to spend more time in that area, for example.
Wow, you guys, it's just been such an amazing webinar, and I cannot believe it's 1 minute to 3 already.
I can't.
I could just
flown by, hasn't it?
It has flown by. I could just sit and talk to you all day. But you know, you've all definitely inspired students to do a placement and definitely do a placement at Aston Martin. Be part of the, you know, the beginning of the future, beginning of the journey, like Natasha said, and get your applications in. So don't forget, there isn't long. There's only a 30-day turnaround time.
Yeah.
We've already, you know, eaten into some of those days already. So like Natasha said, be careful when you're putting your applications together. The little things mean a lot, you know, check your spelling, check your punctuation, grammar and everything else, and make sure it's fit to send to Natasha and her team. And also be inspired by today's webinar, you know, mention that you've been part of the webinar, mention that you've experienced everybody's journeys and you really want to be part of that in the future. So thank you very much everybody for attending today. It's been brilliant. You know, go and have a look at the hub. We've worked hard at putting that together as well. There's lots of information on there. And this webinar will be on there tomorrow. So broken up into bite-sized chunks will be live tomorrow. The whole webinar should be live. We'll say today. Should we say today?
Yeah, this afternoon.
Yeah, this afternoon. I'm confident we'll say this afternoon. So take a look, go back and rewatch the webinar as well. So now thank you for everybody for joining us. We're back on Thursday. We'll be joined by Sellafield. So tune in then. But now thank you very much for Aston Martin for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
So much, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.